silly things to hear.
No, because every time you hear a person, you can have different reflections.
The University of Basque Country has two campuses. One in
Okay.
Bilbao,
Yeah.
one in San Sebastian.
Where I live.
San Sebastian is close to Oñate,
Okay.
and one in Vitoria. The three provinces, three campuses. So it's one university and three campuses.
Okay.
So she's from that area, but
Yeah.
just in Bilbao.
Yes.
Okay.
Vamos a dar comienzo con el acto final. A mi izquierda tengo la suerte de tener a Sari Hanafi. Él es profesor de Sociología en la American University of Beirut, donde dirige el Centro de Estudios Árabes y de Oriente Medio y preside el programa de Estudios Islámicos. Fue presidente de la International Sociological Association entre 2018 y 2023, que es la principal sociedad científica mundial de sociología. También ha sido editor de IDAFAT, The Arab Journal of Sociology, y vicepresidente del Arab Council of Social Science. Entre sus muchas publicaciones destaca su último libro, Contra el liberalismo simbólico, un alegato a la sociedad dialógica, que entre ayer y hoy lo habréis visto ahí, que las veo yo justo, que está ahí su libro, por si lo queréis comprar. Esta perspectiva de diálogo es la que inspira su trabajo actual, incluyendo las contribuciones dialógicas que está haciendo a la reconstrucción de Siria, que es su país natal, ¿no? Y bueno, le habíamos pedido a Sari, ¿no?, que tenía, bueno, si quería, podía hablar pues durante 45 minutos, pero bueno, él, como es muy dialógico, pues ha preferido reducir su intervención, ¿no?, y así poder charlar y dialogar con nosotros y poder debatir. Por tanto, nos ha dicho que hablará unos 30 minutos y luego tendremos la oportunidad pues de dialogar con él. Y bueno, Sari, thank you very much. The floor is yours.
Thank you so much, Annie. I'm so honored to be with you in this very important conference. So I will deliver some thought. It's based on my book. I will talk about it, particularly, focusing on two issues related to education. So let me start broad, if you like, to say how to explain a chilling climate of polarization in our society. While social science and the humanities continue to promote liberal and progressive ideas, how can we explain the persistent shift of many voters toward the right? How do we account for the paradox that at a time when our language has arguably never been more inclusive and less discriminatory, who can say today negre or using this label, at the same time our cities remain deeply segregated. So again, based on my book, again, symbolic liberalism, a plea for dialogical sociology, I don't dare to pronounce it in Spanish, which it's out in many languages. It will be around 15 languages published. I let you to guess the language of this. It will be difficult. So now, so if you like, the backdrop of our late modernity is not only polarization or in each society, but hierarchical is unequal group polarized. So so let me first to argue that, my main thesis that in fact historically a liberal project, take it like this, it's not liberalism with ism, liberal project who, if you like, protect our democracy and create what we call liberal democracy. And what I argue, referring to the work of Jean Rawls, American philosopher, and his two work on theory of justice and political liberalism, how liberalism function, and to show you where it went wrong with this liberal project. So, if you like, Jean Rawls, his work in justice as a fairness, distinguish between two principles. One, egalitarian, we are all free and equal for doing anything, But then, because we are free and equal, that some people will have more advantage than other. So this will be allowed, this disadvantage, or only if it benefit the whole society. It means there is a redistribution of wealth. This is what he called the difference principle. So this is, so liberalism, very important because of the conception of justice. And it is important because there is a distinction between what would be a conception of justice, how we balance between freedom and equality, and how society all agree on it, and individualize conceptions of the good. And by conception of the good, it's any of you who has a preference for dress, food, using spare time, ideals of personal character, friendship, family, all this is part of the conception of the good, that state and elite should not impose their conception of the good on society, should leave it fluid. Only what it should be imposed is the conception of justice. So in fact, what I call symbolic liberalism is how the social justice went under, we'll talk under particularly neoliberal and emotional capitalism. I don't have time to develop more, but what we see that more and more our cities looks like gated community and slum area, and the social justice, as you see, shrink, and in fact, something very important for the justice is a right, and the human rights, and particularly universality of human rights and universal declaration of human rights. But what we, if you like, the problem, it is under identity politics have distorted. So we inflate the conception of the universality of human rights. We then leave some space where how the culture will project a universal declaration of human rights into, I don't know, Basque context, Tunisian context, Palestinian context, and so on. Okay, so and if you like, the example for me, it's for instance the French style secularism in France, how symbolic liberals impose the ban on Muslim veil, while Muslim veil by excellence is part of the conception of the good. Women wanted to put miniskirt or a veil are part of the conception of the good. So this is, if you like, and all this is in the change of in the time of freedom. The more they tell us about freedom, the more we have norms, the more we have regulation. If you will register, if you want to go to see a concert, you need to fill a form where you put everything about you. So this is what Olivier Roy, the French political scientist, called the l'aplatissement du monde. Translated into English in a book, The Crisis of Culture, a wonderful book where he talked about this empire of norms, tends to downplay how people actually resolve problems when different conceptions of the good come into conflict. Before we resolve the problem of noise after 10 p.m. by calling our neighbor, knocking door, invite them to our party. Now, if you make a noise, the first visitor will be the police and give you a fine. This dynamic is further aggravated by excessive identity politics with a subculturally fragmented and polarized society, as I mentioned earlier. So, in fact, historically, if we took the debate, those who work on social movement, the major fault line in society is whether we want a free market or state intervention, okay? And cooperative, as I am talking in Basque, and I visited with Marta Solar Mondragon. I mean, I was extremely delighted with this experience. So it was a fault line, and later on it became about things related to culture. Social conservatism versus social liberalism. Now it's much more complex. You have those who are open, cosmopolitan, if I would say, and in the opposite, those who are nationalist, anti-migrant, interested in a specific subculture identity, and so on. So the implication is very large and can be thought in each country. Just if I will take the case of a fantastic Turkish sociologist, Murat Ergen, who studied the Turkish case, who show us how we shift from even cultural domain to a hardline morality. How it's happened? So you have 30% of the Turkish are engaged cosmopolitans with a global organization, culturally active, against another 30% engaged provincialist, local orientation, cultural activities. And you have the lay person, 40% is engaged, but in the case, of course, of Turkey is socially conservative and culturally passive. But what happened that, in fact, the disengaged with the engaged provincialists will ally themselves and beyond the social, the economic, socio-economic, the culture, to compose a moral bloc. And this moral bloc is rigid and will try to impose the conception of the good in society. So if you like, this is, I would say, we can find similar cases everywhere. I mean, how the working class in United States become supporter of Trump. They are socioeconomically very different. Tycoon who earned $2 billion last year from Bitcoins. Okay, so have you heard about the news this morning that he disclosed that he. So how the working class will ally with him for some moral to constitute moral bloc in something. So against this backdrop and against this symbolic liberalism, I argue in my book that we need to save the liberal project. And here, when I say liberal, it's not economic liberalism. Huh? I'm talking about really the freedom of expression, about rotation of power, democracy. Okay, so how to save it? By make it more dialogical. And it's not the task of a specific group. It's not the social science. It's not Marta will do it as a sociologist. It's or you as an educator in the school. This should be done in all levels. Maybe the urban planners are extremely important to reorganize our society and hinder the constitution of gated community and to bring social housing to even our yuppie neighborhood and so on. But also journalists, artists who foster spaces where this group can meet. Okay, so in another sense, dialogue Dialogical society is not a workshops. It's not we gather in a place and we talk. It's not like this. And if you like, part of my work is really especially when I was president of the International Sociological Association, I noticed some trend in sociology, and this is why I wanted in my level to change or to criticize what is our sociology, our global sociology. And of course, rightly, after late Michael Barawi, a dear friend of Marta, myself, Ramon Fleischer, and others, Michael Barawi always insists that sociology is there to commit to civil society. However, when Michael mentioned civil society, in his mind, the progressive one. And in fact, we look to civil society. Civil society is more and more diversified. So you have those who are progressive in some aspect, but not in other aspect, and so on and so on. So I argue that our commitment to civil society should be disentangled into two levels. Level where mediation, what I called or soft normativity, it means that I will talk to everyone, I will provide knowledge to everyone, I will talk particularly with those I don't like. It's not I bring my dear friend over beer and no, it's we go where historically sociology was anti-clericalist. We need to go to church and to discuss with those who are religious, about their conception. We will go where people are against migration. We need to talk with them and to understand their fear, something like that, okay? And this is the first level, and then the second level, we will have our strong normativity, where we defend marginalized people. We have a positionality. It's a very legitimate to have our commitment to whoever marginalized group in our society. Is it LGBTQ? Is it refugees? It is, etc. So, if you like, my worry when these two levels are analytically conflated into one level, and often the second level, here where I criticize. So, for your conference, I will talk only about two case studies in my book. One related to education. So one about academic freedom and one about sexual education. So first of all, maybe I don't need to convince you how our society is polarized, okay? But what is new, I would say, in the last, particularly a quarter of century, is polarization came to our campuses. And more, unfortunately, campus which supposed to have making the debate in society reasonable, not to talk about rationality, but to have argument of type of public reason argument. In fact, more and more it's position taking, and for sometimes I don't like how people use cancel culture to smash some leftist group. But more and more, I am convinced that no, there is a cancel culture. But what I discover from my research that it's not only the left, it's the right. It's both. They are into canceling each other. And to be sure that we understand each other, cancel culture as an intolerance of opposing views, a vogue for public shaming and ostracism, and a complex policy issues in a blinding moral certainty. And this is a problem of moral certainty. And this is done in what we call culture of safetyism, administrator, they don't want any vogue, because the student become a client, so they should be satisfied, exactly like in bank. Avec all the commodification of higher education, I think is less in Spain. But if you go to Anglo-Saxon world, it's terrible. I mean, it's very difficult to get a place in public university. So, if you like, beyond commodification of higher education, I think there is more cultural backdrop, what I call psychologization of harm and trauma. So, mushrooming of psychologizing literature on harm and trauma that mediate between free speech and inclusion. One of the book, The Cuddling of the American Mind, for instance, by Jonathan Heath and Greg Lukianoff, is an excellent book, but there is many other book. So, because of that, there is a call for restricting free speech and academic freedom by conjuring the harms or rights violation, safe space, all this vocabulary. Yet, we need to ask harms and right violation for whom and for what. Just to give you an example about how in the United States they write about that. So I took the case of an article of American philosopher and Coode, who is currently president of Portland State University. So from her article, this is how she described how people should behave in university. And she wrote it in the context of Gaza Strip, of hindering the protestation or pro-Palestinian or anti-genocide protestation. So, in her mind, expression that create a hostile environment, oppose inclusion, because those who are victims of this hostility are made to feel that they don't belong in the university. She is talking about some pro-colonial Israeli students. So they feel they don't belong to the university. Trauma, they are under trauma. Trauma can be triggered by experiences that shatter our assumption that the world is benevolent and meaningful, and that the self is worthy. Suddenly they feel smashed just because people fight against the genocide on Gaza. Toxic and oppressive speech are harmful forms of speech because they shatter these assumptions about the world and the self. You see how they use this vocabulary? I mean, how poor, I don't know, a bunch of 10, 15 students in a university of 10,000, I mean, they feel this because the other fight against the genocide in Gaza. So this is, if you like, how harm are brought, if you like, to suppress, if you like, a social movement in United States. So in fact, it's a very different from United States First Amendment, where, if you like, it in the case, famous case, Brandenburg versus Ohio, there is, if any slogan, any advocacy, unlikely to produce concrete action, it's protected. Only if you target some people, it should be restricted. Of course, I disagree with First Amendment. I think they should enforce more hate speech. Okay, so I'm in the middle, if you like. I'm not like what in First Amendment. I prefer, if you like, European model from American model. But so I look in United States to disinvitation, where a student or faculty or administration say, we don't want this speaker. In 2000, you have 8 cases, and it went 6 times more, around 50 cases, after 20 years, in 2020. So you see, this is, you see clearly this is disinvitation, this cancel culture, these people, they don't want to hear something they don't like. I will move to my second example. So in my chapter, Sexual and Gender Diversity, Embracing versus Celebrating, I start with the vignette. French footballer Zakaria Abou Khlal, he is a French from Moroccan origin. He wrote in the Twitter when he was asked to be part of a campaign wearing a T-shirt with Rampo flag, he said, first and foremost, I want to emphasize that I hold the highest regard for every individual, regardless of their personal preferences, gender, religion, or background. Respect is a value that I hold in a great esteem. It extended to others, but it also encompasses respect for my own personal beliefs. Hence, I don't believe I am the most suitable person to participate in this campaign. What happened to him? He was absolutely a terrible campaign, media campaign in France against him, and he ended up fired from Saint-Germain-en-Laye club. So this case, and we have other cases where I argue that we need to distinguish between embracing sexual and gender diversity in a sense of recognizing, accepting, and refraining from discrimination, and celebrating, actively campaigning for, or considering it beneficial to society. So I think embracing should include anyone, no matter what culture. This is Universal Declaration of Human Rights, no discrimination. But people have the right to say, I want to educate my kids in a certain form of sexuality. This is not by itself violating the conception of the justice. It's a part of the conception of the good. This is what I try to argue. And I think by doing this distinction is very important if really we care about advancing the right and societal recognition for vulnerable sexual and gender group. So again, we need to discuss any claims, whether it's belong to the justice or to the good, and to take in society. So what form of sexual visibility in the public sphere? And particularly sexual visibility is a social and cultural construct. It means that I think visibility of LGBTQ in Europe now is part of the conception of justice, if you like. Society are mature to take it, but I'm not sure, because this is part of the conception of justice when it comes to countries like in the Arab world or elsewhere. So the boundaries between what belong to justice and what belong to the good should be discussed. And particularly, to reduce polarization, we should think about the common good. Okay? Give you an example. I was recently watching in Bergen, in the time where you have the Pride Parade, okay? And I was with a Norwegian friend, and he told me something really very interesting. He said, 10 years ago, it was always in the parade a naked people. And it's really, it has a lot of reaction in some group in society. And actually, with some dialogue between them, And the other said, we are not against your parade, but can you, because we have kids, etc., can you be less naked? And what I saw, for instance, in Bergen, is a wonderful parade that really appealing to me to march in this parade. So you see, it's not about homophobe and if you like, and those who are in favor of free sexuality, etc. And so I think sexuality is like any social phenomenon. It's culture enter, and then we need some discussion to see how in the public sphere we organize what is common good and how our diversions can we share the public sphere in the different places. We need to negotiate this. All this is appeal to discussion. So, is the visibility of some group similar to visibility of Muslim veil or Sikh turban? I don't think so, because this is part of the freedom of religion. And the freedom of religion is a very fundamental concept in liberalism. Again, this is, we can discuss it, but just to say, because this is some questions in the past, it was to me. So let's compare a little bit in a few minutes, Europe versus Qatar and Lebanon. So if you like, it's very interesting to see that there is left and right convergence in World Value Survey. We see it very clearly about acceptance of sexual and gender diversity. However, it's less concerning same-sex marriage, where really we see still people refuse to do it. If you see the blue color, I mean those in the countries where their refusal of same-sex marriage. And it's a very interesting, it's not the Muslim countries, huh? It's Israel, if you look to the end, you have Christian, you have Mexico, for instance, no, Mexico, Nigeria, Kenya, etc. And the relationship between religiosity and support for same-sex marriage, yes. The less religious, the more support, and etc. But what to do? And if we have this case, either we say we will alienate all religious people, and by doing this, they move to the right and to popular right, or we say, look, we can dialogue and we can discuss with you and find middle way things to do. So, and I would say, the act like this, the German coach, by the way, Germany is very interesting. They are still selling arms to continue genocide on Gaza against kids and women. They are very interested in a specific group only. So by coming and doing this, they really, for the first time in the Arab world, you have in 3 Arabic countries campaign against LGBTQ. You have never a campaign against LGBTQ. It's a societal, if you like, we whisper, we say, we make fun, but no campaign. And then the Arab world, you come here to play and you campaign for them. Okay, so again, I'm not giving you any of my opinion, but how this perceived by the Arab world and how it fire back against, I think, fundamentally important, the recognition of all form of sexuality everywhere in the world. So I think what more and more clash is not the LGBTQ, but the T. And the T trans is not as a fundamental right to anyone to be trans, but when trans impose an agenda of gender fluidity. We say, okay, to normalize my situation, they are not anymore man and woman, everything is fluid, and this entails reorganization of society, what the meaning of a family, etc. All this is, I think, carry with it a metaphysics. Exactly like heteronormativity has a metaphysics, and often religious metaphysics. So if it is metaphysics against metaphysics, so this is should be discussed and not to be imposed. Our conception of justice should be metaphysics free, by the way. This is in a liberal way. And particularly this new metaphysics is based on the idea that the pleasure is absolute. We can pursue the pleasure, and I think pleasure is indeed part of the conception of the good. So here I raise some questions globally, but can be understood in different contexts in different way. Can parents claim the right to educate their kids on what constitutes the good life for them? If a community wanted to celebrate heterosexual normativity, is it against the conception of justice if there is no discrimination against a queer community? Can conservative families defend marital-centered sexual ethics as a conception of the good without being criminalized, as in Sweden and in Norway, by the social service labeled in Sweden as honor-related repression? So, again, all these questions I raise require to be careful reflected upon and debated without conflating the conception of justice. This should be agreed on societally with a pluralistic conception of the good and how culture, and by consequence religion, matters in their conception of sexuality and gender identity. Again, I am not reifying any culture. Culture can change, etc. But just I am putting this like this. So, academic culture, even in my university, there is a hinder of gender critically feminism to talk in my university, although she is lesbian, she is philosopher, coming from a very progressive background. So often cancel culture come left against the more left or less left. So I don't have much time, but let me almost finish. So now I will talk particularly about gender identity school curriculum. In a recent interview, George Galloway, a British member of parliament, defended his position during his 2016 campaign to become a mayor of London for same-sex marriage. So he was in favor of that, while currently opposing the inclusion of sexuality and gender identity curriculum in schools. So is it a contradiction? So on controversial introduction of the sexual and gender identity school curriculum in many Western countries, it is worth noting that even before Trump began his second term, my research had already revealed significant tension between schools and parents, as evidenced by various surveys conducted by the Pew Research Center. Yet, many social scientists don't want to see the problem or simply deploy their strong normativity by advocating a sort of authoritarian imposition of how to advance sexual minority rights. My research revealed that the tension is not necessarily against the inclusion of the curriculum. It was no discussion, but about what kind of content and to which age. And actually, I have a conversation with a parent, a Norwegian parent, which she showed me a page where how the family is represented in a new curriculum in Norway. and you say family, so you have male, female, male, male, female, female, with kids, without kids. She told me that she absolutely don't mind to show diversity of the family. But for her, this page should represent what currently the situation. So it will be for her that male and female, big, and they say family can also take the form of male, male, female, female, etc. So if you like, again, I am not defending anything, but just to say this need dialogue to say what kind, how representation and things like that. Okay, so let me finish by this. So again, I call for dialogical liberal project where things should be discussed and not imposed. So while the project acknowledges and praises the critical role feminist and LGBT movements have played in advancing the rights of women and sexual minorities, it also called for greater tolerance of diverse feminist perspectives. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Sari, for such an inspiring lecture. And now we have a little bit of time. There is the microphone, so if somebody wants to... Oh, perdón. Si alguien quiere hacerle alguna pregunta, pues adelante. No tenemos mucho tiempo, pero haremos una ronda, sí.
Or if you like, come here. Would you like to come here? Don't be afraid. We are very nice. Can you come here if you like? Yeah? Yeah. Absolutely. So you
Okay. Thank you very much for your inspiring presentation. You have emphasized dialogue as the importance of dialogue in society that is increasingly being polarized. And my question is, if you see dialogue as a way, mainly, a way of enabling coexistence of different perspectives and different ways of seeing the good, or you also think that dialogue can also be a way of transforming the perspectives of the people that are participating in the dialogue? That's my question. Thank you.
Hello, thank you. My question is focused. Some days ago in the FIFA World Cup, there was a match between Egypt and Iran. It was in the context of the Pride match. So it was related with some of the examples that you put during the presentation. So I would like to ask for your opinion because, for example, in Iran, the same-sex relations are, I think they are penalized, and in some cases they have death penalty. So the FIFA selected this match between Egypt and Iran as a pride match. So I don't know how could you explain with the presentation. Thank you.
Thank you for your presentation. My question is about the coherence and the academic freedom.
Nowadays, there are more violent or coercive interactions in some departments when you have different thoughts. And how can we teach our students about freedom if we don't practice it ourselves? That's my question.
You meet at the university. University department.
Yeah, so what is the question? Because in the beginning I didn't hear.
She says that there is not a coercion and imposition within the university department with colleagues.
I think you can answer if you
Yeah.
want.
Okay. Thank you so much for these questions. Yes, actually, it's dialogue is absolutely transformative. And myself, I am Palestinian, and I have a lot of dialogue meetings with Israelis, and I can tell you how when it was a dynamic of peace, this is very interesting. When there is a dynamics of peace, dialogue was extremely important to smoothen, to de-essentialize conflict, to change narratives. So yes, it's absolutely transformative. And so dialogue, again, you need to understand dialogue not a meeting. Dialogue is really it's something painful to be done. You start, you break ice. The first meeting, you create a social activities. You go, you bring people to your place. You take them. All this is, if you like, where a dialogue become transformative. So yes, in a nutshell, I would say this. Thank you so much about your question. Actually, this book is called Against Symbolic Liberalism. I mean, if I would say against symbolic conservatism, I would write not 350 pages, I will write 1,000 pages, because I grew up in this region and I know. So I don't, but if you like, even in the book, for instance, when I criticize France about imposing unveiling in society, in the same token, I mention Iran as imposing veiling, if you like. And yes, if you like, I see why secularism didn't enter my society in the Arab world, because many of cultural left in North Africa, but not only in North Africa, adopt the French-style secularism. So just to show you, there is a connection, if you like. If you will make secularism appealing, you make it not anti-religious secularism, but a secularism which is which tolerates also religion, part of the worldview of people. Okay, so and the same thing. I think if we want to advance, if you like, sexual and gender diversity, and this is a fundamental things in liberal, as a liberal values, you need to disentangle what belongs to the justice and what belongs to the good. That you advance first the justice agenda, and then you move for how to mediate between conflicting conceptions of the good. So this is very strategic. So this is important for Iran. How you advance it in Iran is really where you work what went wrong in the liberal democracies concerning this. The third question is a very, very important, and I think I think you have Afro-American sociologist wrote a few months ago a book about what he called symbolic capitalism, how academia become part of the injustice they are denouncing. So by not and he wrote it about American context and showing wherever you have a democratic state, you have more inequality. And he showed by doing, if you like, knowledge production analysis, that less and less interested in social justice, exactly as I did. And more when they do intersectional approach, it means that complementing social class analysis by race, gender, the ethnicity, etc., sexuality, they forgot the social classes. It become like interested in minorities and etc. without looking about the poverty, for instance. I think, yes, academia more and more commodified, not autonomous, under pressure. The academic faculty wanted to satisfy donors sometimes, the state, not to tell the truth to power. This is unfortunately more and more there. And this is where we need to put again on the agenda the question of social justice and the centrality of social justice for the academia for the academia. And then absolutely we cannot convince our students about freedom and equality if we don't exercise it ourselves and they see it in our behavior. Exactly like parents. I mean, you cannot preach your kids something and you behave in a other way. Thank you. Thank you so much. Yeah.
Okay, thank you very much, Sari. Si os parece bien, lo dejamos aquí y ahora, bueno, Ana y Roger, cuando queráis. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you very much, Sari. We are enjoyed your talks, your lessons, and your reflections, your dialogues. Thank you very much. One more time.
Bueno, pues empezamos este congreso CIMIE, ¿no? Recordando pues con un chori a chori, ¿no? Para dar alas a la educación, ¿no? Pero ya teníamos alas, porque nuestro lema del congreso de este año era el suelo, ¿no? Esto me pasa por leer. El sueño era posible, ahora es real, ¿no? Por lo tanto, lo que sí que hemos hecho es coger impulso para volar, para seguir haciendo una investigación multidisciplinar educativa que ayude a transformar la realidad y en co-creación con la ciudadanía y las personas implicadas, que es lo que hemos hecho en este congreso. Yo creo que muchos de nosotros y nosotras tenemos muchos recuerdos que hemos ido creando y que hemos ido haciendo. ¿Te acuerdas de alguno, Roger, en concreto?
Ahora me has pillado desprevenido, pero yo que sé, hoy mismo hemos estado en este estupendo parque en homenaje a Casilda Urizar, que en un acto revolucionario de reconocimiento de la diversidad de los feminismos, rompiendo prejuicios clasistas y reconociendo hechos, ¿no? Yo qué sé, la inauguración, la asamblea, paneles que hemos hecho del multilingüismo, del abuso sexual, muchos aspectos que estamos con el Congreso con un alto nivel científico y un alto nivel de transformación social y humano, ¿no? Nos lo pasamos bien, es cierto, pero también hay mucho rigor y mucho trabajo y concienzudo detrás.
Yo os voy a decir una cosa personal, y es que hoy me he levantado y lo primero que he pensado es qué feliz que soy, ¿no? Y yo creo que para recordar, ¿no? Pues qué mejor que lo volvamos a ver, ¿no? ¿Os apetece un poco volver a ver algunos pocos recuerdos para que se nos quede también en la retina? No sé si nos podrían ayudar por allí, al fondo, a crear otra vez para recrear estos recuerdos, a ver si entre todos y todas. Pues efectivamente solamente nos queda por decir, queda clausurado este congreso y nos vemos en 2027 en Valencia.